Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for joining us this afternoon through this format. We're getting pretty good at Zoom, it seems, and we're hoping that that you're wrapping up the semester with in the ways that you want. We know it's been a very sort of difficult and stressful semester for everyone, and we just want to tell you how much we appreciate you. All that you do for our students and for this incredibly unique institution that we call our professional home. We start today with no particular update on our missing student, Madeline Allen. But I also wanted, we would be remiss not to acknowledge with our campus community this kind of ongoing and traumatic kind of situation with Maddie. We, as you know, we're going on about hour 60 that Maddie has gone missing from Snow Hall. She went missing around 9:30 on Monday night, and we are putting all the resources that we possibly can in getting her returned. We've been coordinating heavily with different agencies, and I really want to thank Derek Walk, Chief Walk, and our police department, our sheriff's department, highway patrol, the FBI. This is a 24-hour effort to try and find Maddie. And so we are going to be holding a press conference tonight at 4 p.m. The family will be with us, but I also want to thank Mike Daniels, who, as our Dean of Students, has been a really important link with the family and with the media. I also want to thank Marcy Larson, who serves as our Chief Information Officer, who's doing a terrific job in kind of coordinating messages. But this is a very distressing time for our campus and for her family. But I'd like to maybe turn the time over to Mike for a bit to kind of update you on other details that we can share. You can appreciate, though, this is an ongoing investigation, so we have to be very careful with details so it doesn't get in the way of our law enforcement agencies. But Mike, what can you tell us?
President Cook, I appreciate first and foremost just your support of our campus and our students. Appreciate the support of all the resources. Right now, what we are able to gather is, law enforcement and investigators believe that this is an isolated incident. They believe that no others should feel like they're at harm. What led them to that? They're investigating that. They're trying to figure out trying to put together those pieces of the puzzle and try to figure that out. But they do believe it's an isolated incident. Now, what I'd like to share is a reminder that be cautious of the people that you associate with, that you meet, that you trust, that you spend time with if they are new and you don't know them, that type of thing. So people keep asking me, do you think she's in danger? And I do. The reason behind that is because of what she was wearing when she left at 9:20 at night. It appeared that she didn't think she was going to be gone very long with what she took and what she left behind. And so we are very worried for Madeline. We're doing everything we can to make sure we're assisting investigators. And there's so many parts of campus that are just providing little nuggets of information. And that's crucial, just so we can get a good idea of what we're up against and how we can find Madeline the soonest. Today at 4 o'clock, the family will be speaking and giving a statement. They'll be talking about Madeline, about their plea for her to come home, for her the hope that she's safe. They'll also be encouraging, conversations about mental health and looking out for each other's well-beings. And so we encourage you to tune into that at 4 o'clock. That'll be a live press conference. But as of right now, we're really just asking for anyone's help that may have seen something on Monday night at about 9:22 near Snow Hall. It appears when she's walking out of her dorm room that she's looking at something or someone or trying to find something. And so we're hoping that someone was walking to go get dinner or going for a nightly walk, even though it was cold, that may have noticed something that was kind of, a little bit odd. Oh, that was a white Accord that didn't have a muffler on. That was weird. That's usually not seen around here, type of thing. So anything that you think maybe just might be a small nugget of information might help investigators. Like you mentioned, Chief Walk has been so great to work with. He's been around the clock, spending time chasing down leads all across the state. Not only here, but in other counties and up north as well. And so we just appreciate their commitment. We appreciate the commitment of other sheriff's offices, the FBI, and our campus as a whole. We don't have a lot of new information, and I think that's the most frustrating part, is that we don't have new answers. We don't have any better idea of what may have led to her missing. A lot of people asked, why did it take a little bit of time to actually, kind of come out and say that she was missing? Well, there were some things that happened, Tuesday morning that, we were trying to look into, and I think investigators were trying to look into. They were talking to the family and trying to get a good picture of what we were up against. And once investigators started piecing together those early pieces of the puzzle, that's when they then in fact said, we do have a missing student. As you know, this has never happened here. It's a very safe campus. It's a campus where everyone is cared for and supported, just like this student was all semester long. And so it is kind of shocking. It is kind of troubling, but know that, Sheriff Walk and his crew are working on this. President, we appreciate your support and the resources that you're putting behind this. And we just want to find Madeline. We just want to make sure she's safe, and we want to bring her home. That's about all the information that we have now. I'm more than happy to take questions if anyone has any. I don't know if I can answer them, but I'll definitely try my best.
Thank you, Mike. I appreciate your support here and your help. There is a question about where will the live press conference be broadcast, and maybe Marcy can give us some information there. Marcy, do you want to just say how that's going to go down? I don't think it'll be a live stream. I think what you'll have are essentially news agencies kind of taking footage, and then they'll be putting it on the news later, or do we plan on a live feed?
We will have both set up. We will have the live stream. President, I think you're going to have to relay this information. We'll have the Founders Hall 4 o'clock, and then we'll also have the live stream.
Those that I can see, could you hear Marcy? I'm hoping that the rest of the audience heard that, but thank you, Marcy. And again, let me just reiterate: if anybody has any information, please let us know. But there is a lot of people of goodwill have reached out, saying, listen, we're ready to we're ready to form a search party. We've got our horses and our boots. We're ready to go look, and we will, as soon as we get the direction from from law enforcement that that's an appropriate thing, then we will let you know. But thank you. Listen, there's a lot of good news. I mean, in addition to the sadness and the distressing news of Maddie, there's a lot that is going well, and I want to kind of hold that to the end. So we're talking in terms of the legislative session, in terms of what we've been doing with academics and athletics, some great fundraising news that we can share, but I'm going to hold that for now. And I'd like to sort of turn our attention to COVID. I think that, again, this is an ongoing pandemic, and I think we have to always remind ourselves that we're still in, this is still a very precarious time, especially with new variants emerging. But so I'd like to turn the time over to Rob Nielsen, who's been really largely our COVID response coordinator for the campus. you might remember, of course, that the state has not allowed us to do any mask mandates, and of course no mandated testing, which makes our information, our data a little bit weak when it comes to kind of measuring these things. But Rob, do you want to jump on and tell us a little bit about the current state? And then also to reiterate what we do know, we did talk about this a little bit about a month or so ago, last time we met, on some survey results. We sent a survey out to the campus, and if maybe he could go over some of the results of that survey, I think that would give us at least some line of sight into where we are. So, Rob?
Okay, maybe just recap we'll just recap what we've done this semester. As you know, we tested many thousands of people last semester. This semester, we've tested 1,296 people. And out of that, we had 79 positive cases. We're currently dealing with about 4 positive cases on campus right now, and the care team is working with them to take care of that. So it's been a pretty good semester. We've been able to keep track of most of the kids that have had it, that we've been able to contact through our system, and our testing has continued to go on, so we'll continue to do that. At the request of the council, the college council, we did do a survey. There, as you can see, there were 1,111 responses. Most of them students from Ephraim, and it was quite interesting what we found. That the numbers were interesting. Of course, we realized that they may not be exact, maybe skewed by those who want to be vaccinated. But 33% had COVID, and 67% had not had. The vaccination status, 68% had been vaccinated, 25% had not been vaccinated. And the concern, as you can see, there was not a lot of concern about COVID. Now, what we did find was really interesting was in a lot of the responses, the written responses. It seems that the 25% that are not vaccinated, it doesn't look like we're going to be able to convince them, many of them, to be vaccinated. They have some pretty strong beliefs about it, and hopefully we can continue with science and with information to help them have a desire to go get tested. But that was done early in the semester, so if those numbers continue and we continue to have vaccinations, which we believe we did, I think it's maybe a little bit higher than we may have guessed, a percentage of people who've been vaccinated. So we will continue our campaign as we begin the new season, the new semester. I will continue to encourage everyone to get vaccinated. As we get new strains, we get more information about the strains, about the virus. It seems that everything points towards vaccination as the best way to go. So we will continue to do that. We will continue to test, and we will continue to take care of those students and faculty and staff that we find that do test positive, and we'll encourage people to be tested regularly, especially if they have symptoms or if they have any concerns. If they're going to be traveling, we'll continue to be testing and just supporting everybody. We encourage, like I say, we encourage everyone to be vaccinated, and we will look to do more vaccination clinics on campus as we start the new semester with new students. So kind of not a great thing we're dealing with, but overall, I think our campus did really well this semester in not having an outbreak and being able to monitor and isolate people, and people did a good job of isolating when they did get it. So we'll continue to do that. And then we'll be really watching closely the schools that have mandated vaccinations for enrollment. There's 3 schools that haven't. We're one of those 3. And so we will continue to really watch closely. We meet regularly, weekly, with the other state institutions to see what they're doing with COVID. So if we learn things that will help us, we will continue to change our policy, our procedures of how we deal with COVID, and see if we can't continue to work to get rid of the problem.
Great, thanks, Robin. And I had to just respond to a text here, but did you remind us about the boosters and also the PEHP incentive? Did you already mention that?
No, I did not. So PEHP has incentivized If you'll go get the shots, they pay you quite well. If you get the booster, it's $50. So we encourage everyone to use the incentives through our medical plan to go out and get the booster, or just to be vaccinated if you haven't been. Both have are paid. If you do that, they'll take care of you. So thanks for the reminder of that, President.
Well, thank you. And listen, I want to invite again all of you online and participating here that we do have a Q&A section here. Please feel free to engage us on any questions that you might have on any topic that might be of interest to you. I'd like to move us then to Terry Clausen and to give us an enrollment report to look at our current fall numbers. What does it look like going into spring, and a re-emphasis on again student success, retention, and recruitment. So Terry.
Yeah. So one of the things the president asked me to talk about was kind of the breakdown of what our fall enrollment looked like. Everybody knows that we saw a little over a 5% increase, I think 5.5, something like that. And I just want to lay to rest some concerns that there might be out there that we're only growing in concurrent enrollment, and that's not the case. We have growth across the board in all of our different categories. So as you know, that we've talked about before, that we saw an increase of about 530 students over this fall semester last year. And how that is kind of broken down is that we saw about a 200 student increase in online, about a 215 increase in our face-to-face students. And so that was pretty significant. We did see a small increase, but probably less than 100 in concurrent enrollment. So the majority was in our online and face-to-face classes. What was particularly interesting is that we have more students than ever before that are taking a mixed modality. So we have, I want to say, a little over 1,000 students right now that are taking at least one online class and then the rest face-to-face. So that's pretty significant, and how important having that flexibility has been. In our tech ed area, we also saw an increase. This is also included in those face-to-face students. But what is particularly telling is that's a pretty small population to begin with when we take out the concurrent enrollment students. But they saw a 30 student increase in tech ed, which when you're talking only about maybe 300 students, so that's a big 10% increase in your enrollment there. So kudos to our friends working in the tech ed. I know they've done a lot in getting that word out. Something that I also want to remind everyone about is that during fall of 2020, we had our Learn and Work, and it was huge, right? We had like 700 different students that came in based upon those programs that had been successfully approved. And so we served about 700 students there. With the changes in those programs, we only saw 50. So for us to be up in our enrollment with face-to-face, online, etc., that also is making up the difference between what had happened with Learn and Work and all of those students. So we had to backfill those and we still grew. So our fall was pretty impressive in what we were able to accomplish. Moving forward for spring, point in time, we are up about 100 students. But the thing that concerns me a little bit is that because we had such a large influx over this past fall, our numbers were higher. I would have expected our retention numbers going into spring to be that much higher. I did have Jackie work a little bit of her predictive analytics magic within Civitas, and it looks like we're on track to be okay with, as long as we can continue that trajectory into the third week of spring semester. We should be sitting pretty healthy, but there is concerns that students aren't excited to come back to school. Maybe after finals, they will get a boost of self-confidence and say, I'm gonna enroll for spring and try it again. So anything that we can do to encourage students to continue on, if they have to change modality because of a circumstance, we want to be accommodating to that. If they need to, move fully online to finish out, whatever that may be. So overall, things are looking fairly positive, but there's always room for improvement there.
There's a really nice comment from our audience saying the flexible face-to-face online mixed modality is very appreciated by our local employers too. It allows them to hire students and they are able to meet shift demands with this flexibility. So thank you for that comment. Well, thank you, Terry, and I hope that everybody that's involved in kind of the recruitment, enrollment, registration, frontline, how much we appreciate their work. This is this just work cannot happen without them, and they do it so well. So thank you. And listen, if there are questions about enrollment, go ahead and register those in the question or comment section. I want to welcome Senator Darren Owens, our champion on the Hill. He is up on the Hill as we speak, fighting for us, and we thought we'd want to bring Darren in to give the campus a little bit of a peek into this legislative session, which starts in about a month. He has some really great news. So he's also an employee of Snow College, especially over economic development, and he has really some exciting news about a gift that came through, and what are those plans? So Senator Owens, welcome. It's always good to see you. How's the weather up there? It's snowing pretty hard here.
Well, thanks, President. You can hear me, right? I don't want to be okay. Hi, everybody. It sounds like it's going to be a rough drive down in that part on the way home this evening, but it's cloudy here, but nothing coming to the ground in Salt Lake. Thanks for giving me the opportunity. I will be slipping back into our caucus meeting again here shortly, but and I'm sorry for being a little late, President. I know you were planning on me a little earlier. Just a few things I can share with you right here this morning. We've been meeting as a caucus and talking about the session, which does begin January 18th, 2022 session. And so, as you would imagine, a lot of talk about the budget and how things look. We're in such a blessed place with a lot of money, but we have to go forward in a wise manner so that we don't run ourselves off a cliff when the day comes that we don't have the influx of the federal dollars like that we're having now. Just one word of note, this isn't the gift, but that our executive appropriations team set aside $120 million ongoing dollars for higher ed building fund restoration. So hopefully that puts Badger Nation in right up the rank to get some of our building needs met in the short future. The item President was referring to is I get the pleasure of working in the innovative with the economic development team, and part of that is our innovative ag department with the Kendra and Matt and Jay, and with our economic development and business team, of course led out by Vice President Stacy McKiff. But we've been looking at different ideas that would not draw state funding, but that might allow the innovative ag department to expand because it's ready to blow up. Agriculture has always been such a vital part of Snow College grassroots anyway. So as part of our rodeo team program and the innovative ag, doTERRA has generously given us a check for $300,000. SAPA, the medical cannabis SAPA Investments Group out in our West County of Sanpete County there, donated another $10,000, and they want to sponsor ability to put an indoor arena up down there where the current arena is, just north of the softball fields. And so we're starting to work towards that. We're also applying for an EDA grant to help, but this helps us in a big way from Snow College because it gives us our 10 to 20% match that's needed. It'll take a little time, but we see support in that. So it's kind of fun to get announced that those things are underway. There's an account. Carson's keeping track of those dollars coming in, and we'll continue to keep you posted as that comes forward. We see this being a multiple use building that could be used in a variety of ways, even possibly indoor larger arena for graduation or off-season practices for some teams that need to be out of the weather as you are getting today. So some of those things are just that are in the works right now. And on the state side, President, I know your budget deep dive that you've done with your team. It's taking traction. It's getting root for rural equity. You might know the correct name of that, but I think that's going to get some traction and help Snow College continue in the foreseeable future.
Well, thank you. You're right. We've been meeting a lot with our legislative delegation, trying to find bill sponsors for that. We've met with the governor, and we found place in the governor's budget. Darren, you may want to explain to people that the governor's budget is interesting, but ultimately not binding. And so they've set aside, and they haven't called it Snow College. It really is a rural community college equity position, which will allow us to be able to look at compensation, look at critical positions, and do some other really important things for us. But having it in the governor's budget doesn't guarantee anything. But it really is not a trivial fact that it's there. Right?
No, that's a major step. You're right. Having anything on the governor's budget would be anyone seeking funding. That would be their first request, because then it is on a radar. Now, as a legislature, we always joke about the governor's budget because it's really just an ask, and the legislature's over the state funding. But it is an important step, and if it is on his budget, then it's met that standard already. So and being a rural community college, that pretty well identifies, I think, where the main thrust of the money should be going.
Well, also, you want to say a word that there has been already some initial decisions by leadership on compensation. And so you want to talk about what we know about that, and whether there's going to be more conversation above what we're talking about now.
Yeah, really good question. There has been set aside already. Let me see here for public. It looks like I'm trying to find the right line while I have everybody waiting. I'm sorry. Public education enrollment growth, that's funded. And public employees, so that would be our everybody at the college. There's a set aside of that. I think it was about $20 million and I don't know what percent that will be of an increase, but some of these things were already set aside this year by EAC because of where we're at in the budget, which is huge. It's awesome that we can set money aside ahead of time because we had budgeted so well and been a little conservative in the past. So that's in place today. A lot of our talk has been about, I can't tell you what caucus decision's been made in the Senate today, but I can tell you that there's a strong appetite. You might know that the legislative leadership put out the number of 160 million that could be possible for a tax break. And at least on the Senate side, I can tell you there's strong support for that. Not just that, but even beyond if we could. So I think that's good news for us financially.
So Darren, I had heard, at least from the commissioner, and maybe things have changed, but that 20 million would translate to about a 3.5% compensation increase as kind of off the top. Is that consistent with your, and there may be some conversation during the session of whether there will be some other increment added, but it looks like it's probably going to be around 3.5%.
Yeah, that's right, President. That's where it comes in at. Again, you know, we could go higher, but on ongoing cost, you have to be careful, because in the future, if we don't have this kind of economic strength, then now we stand at the cliff's edge and we have to start then cutting back, and that's, or raising taxes, which nobody wants to see. So, but yeah, 3.5% I think is going to be pretty solid.
Well, also, this is really pretty good news for the system of higher education. There's $120 million set aside for buildings, as you had pointed out, but there's an additional $100 million that is set aside for what is called lab remodel and renovation, and that $100 million is going to be allocated to across based on a formula, and we're looking at about a $2.5 million for us to look at labs and other things here. So I've asked Melanie, Stacy, and others to work with our academic folks to see where we can best use those resources. And so there'll be more conversation over. We have to submit our plans for that 2.5 million, and it can only be for remodel space and equipment. It can't be for new space. I was excited for a minute there that maybe we could make some progress on some things on that front. But this is really a terrific thing, but we've got to have those in before Christmas into the commissioner's office. So there'll be some, I'm sure, as Melanie reaches out to academic leadership and department chairs and that sort of thing. I'm hoping you might be able to help us, guide those resources towards a good end. Well, I know, Senator Owens, I know that you're probably stepped out of your caucus, but any final words to leave with the campus?
Yeah, I would like to say it is an honor to work and be employed with all of you at Snow College. I also serve, if you live in my Senate district from Santa Quinta, Arizona, then I represent each of you. So 851-1284 during session, please text. And if I don't answer, it'll be my intern and we'll get back to you. But Snow College is the heart and really the professional leadership institution of the 6-county area. So it kind of rests upon us as professionals to stay involved on the issues. And I just invite any of you to reach out, and would love your input on any issues that come up.
Well, you're doing a terrific job for our part of the state, Senator. We appreciate your advocacy as we push through on an equity bill for Snow College and for our building. Those are our primary. We have luckily been able to secure Senator Evan Vickers, the majority leader in the Senate, to sponsor a bill, and we'll be working on a sponsor on the House side with your direction. I think we've got meetings on the 21st of December to secure that sponsorship. Those that know Ralph Okerlund know how effective he is, and a really kind of senior statesman as the senator prior to Senator Owens. But we've hired him to be our legislative liaison, and it's really amazing how effective he is and be able to get us audiences with people that we would struggle otherwise. So I feel really good about moving into this year, and revenues look pretty good. But like you say, Senator Owens, the state of Utah is the best managed state in the union, and partly because we're careful, even in good times. We're careful. But I do feel that education is a commitment that our state and our legislators have. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, President, and have a great day, everybody. I'll jump back into caucus. I couldn't agree more. Education should be number one in all of our priorities. So I appreciate being with you for a few minutes.
Thanks again.
Take care.
Okay, we want to now turn our attention to the budget. I'd like to have Vice President Howell do a couple of things with us. First, I'd like to have him talk about the COVID funds. You might remember that the federal government through the HERF funds, and there's all kinds of other kind of acronyms that we've had. But I'd like to have him talk about, these budget proposals that have come through the budget committee, decisions about using this one-time money, where it's gone, where has the campus been enhanced strategically. So Carson, do you want to just walk us through how we've used the COVID funds thus far?
Sure, thanks, President. I'm actually going to pull up this slideshow, and so hopefully everybody can see that. When we received those COVID funds, those came in 3 different rounds. The first round that we got was approximately 1.2 million. We didn't know that there were going to be subsequent rounds, and so that first one was really to bridge the gap of some of the needing to buy cleaning supplies and hand sanitizing stations and plexiglass and a lot of those things, is how that's what those funds were used. And then we continued to get the second round and then the third round. And those were broken up into 2 different buckets. The first bucket, which was an institutional portion, and that's what we had in order to do those upgrade type of things that you were talking about, President. The second bucket was really for students. And if you remember, for the first little bit, we were just providing money back to students, those that qualified. And the qualifications for who was eligible for those changed over time. So by the time we got to the third round, the definitions were quite broad in that every student was eligible, which is why you saw that 14 for free credits on us. But the institution portion over the 3 rounds was almost $10.9 million that we received in one-time funding. And so, President, to your question, this is really to report back to the college of how we've used those funds. So the first one that I'll touch on here, this is actually on the student portion. We got a little bit less than the 10.9. They don't match up. The student portion is about $7 million. So you can see that we had the first round of funding assisted about 1,200 students. The second round of funding assisted about 2,100 students. And then the third round of funding was large enough that we were able to help the 3,000 students in the fall semester, and we still have some money left over to be able to help the students in spring semester. So that's why the total amount that you see spent here on the student financial aid is 4.8 million. But again, we've got about $7 million that is geared just towards students. We can't use that for any other purpose at the college here. It has to go out to students.
So just to reiterate for everybody, again, there's the 10 million that's earmarked for the institution, and then 7 million that is specifically earmarked for students, right?
That's correct. Yep. So when we get to the institutional portion, so this is the $10 million number. There's actually been quite a bit of personnel. We've looked at everything from academic advisors, IT help desk, the IT staff. We've looked at faculty training. We've looked at an online director. There have been a lot of personnel changes that we've used this money to. But this money is only a one-time funding. And so we've actually taken our budget request for this next year, a lot of that performance funding that we get from the state, and we are backfilling some of these positions that you see here on this list. In order to make these a permanent ongoing, we feel the need for wellness center, for academic advising, And some of these things that we know are ongoing concerns, we were able to use the COVID funds to help kickstart that and maybe get a head start on some of those things. So that was about $2 million that we'd spent. The next portion was for academic and student support. So we were looking at classroom supplies, we're looking at computer lab upgrades, and that picture over here on the right is one of the upgrades to the computer labs that have been done. And then looking at online development. When COVID happened and all the institutions shut down, there was a big push for online development. How do we transition from a face-to-face environment to where students can learn online and learn remotely? Now we had snow online before that, but we've been able to enhance that, looking at online tutoring and those kind of things. So that was about another 1.9 million. Then a big portion was for technology upgrades. I think that everybody can recognize that the Wi-Fi is working better than it ever has. We see faster speeds across campus than we ever have. And part of that is not only the Wi-Fi, but then it's also the network cabling out to the buildings. And being able to do those technology upgrades, which will help everybody here on campus, but then also help those who are connecting to the campus remotely. You're also seeing some of those network switches. This is back in these technology upgrades. I mentioned the Wi-Fi, that it's improved and is much better than it ever has been. Part of that is because there have been over 120 Wi-Fi access points that were deployed across campus. Those are not necessarily replacements of the Wi-Fi access points. A lot of those were new access points that we put in so that there's much better coverage. So there's been a lot of effort to try and improve the technology across campus. And along with that, I think most of the faculty can appreciate the technology upgrades that have been in the classrooms. All of the new cameras and microphones that have been deployed across campus. It was a huge task, especially during those summer months, to try and retrofit these classrooms with this new technology and have it in place for when classes started in the fall. So that if a student does get COVID, as Rob talked about earlier, and is isolated, that they can still continue their education. And that was almost $600,000 that we put into those classroom enhancements. We're also looking at the COVID cost reimbursement. And again, a lot of this comes from that first round of funding, where we were looking at hand sanitizing stations, bottle filling stations, rather, because we had to turn off all of the drinking fountains. We had lost revenue over in auxiliaries. When students left, we reimbursed those students when they had to leave their dorms, when they didn't finish out their meal plans. We reimbursed those students, and so then we took some of those COVID funds to reimburse the auxiliaries for that lost revenue that they had. And also with those student fees as they left, some of those fees that they had paid for but were not able to utilize, we reimbursed those students. And so there was a large chunk of money that was just paid out to cover that direct COVID cost. There were a lot of improvements across campus in the furnishings, classroom upgrades. We had a lot of areas that it was cramped. We needed to, with the social distancing that was recommended, we had to look at improving some of the classrooms. We had to look at retrofitting some seating arrangements or new tables over in the cosmetology area to be able to allow the students to socially distance but still continue their education. We looked at institutional support. We're looking at making the P-card process, improving the P-card process, getting software in there to help so that as you make purchases, that you can do a lot of that online, that you can do that via technology rather than maybe hanging on to each of those paper receipts, but still being able to provide that P-card information that we need. looking at a contract with RNL, and they help with strategic enrollment planning. So how do we build out our enrollment plan now that we have more remote options, and with COVID still going on? How does that look as we figure out what is the process of how we recruit students, and how does Snow College show all these programs that we have now in various formats? We had a lot of laptops that were provided across the institution. When everybody had to work remotely, there were a lot of people that just had desktops in their office and didn't have the option to work remotely. And so we purchased a lot of laptops. We looked at laptops that students could check out, especially if they were isolated. And then being able to host more activities outdoors. So there was a lot that we did with these COVID funds. And even still, I think as Senator Owens talked about, it's important to carefully manage how we use those funds. And so there's approximately about $3.8 million that we have held in reserve. These funds are able to be used through May of 23. So we still have another year, a little over a year and a half, that we can use these funds. And we don't know what's going to happen next. And so we didn't want to use all of the money now and then be in a situation where we are really struggling in order to maintain operations. And so we've held back some money in reserve in order to do that. So President, those are a lot of the things of how we've used those COVID funds to help with the operations in the college.
Okay, thank you, Carson. And again, any questions that the audience has, please feel free to use the comment board. Speaking of budget, Carson, this has been a little bit of a hot topic on our campus, just because we've had a fairly involved process of a chart of accounts development, a new chart of accounts. And for most of us, I'm sure that doesn't mean much, but it has caused a lot of challenges with us, being able to report on budgets. And so, do you want to talk about where we are as we kind of work our way through the chart of accounts change, and what can we look forward to in the near future? Yeah,
absolutely. And President, first of all, I just want to say that we recognize the struggle and the frustration that people are having. We have the same frustration and the same struggle. The chart of accounts project, as we started that project, we had a direction that we were going down, and the technical side of that is that the funds were going to go into a certain account, or that money was going to go into a fund and then be budgeted out. And it made it more difficult to track those funds and especially for the individual departments. And so in order to make it easier and to assist the departments with their budget, we had to pivot. And so we've actually gone back and we're working very hard to create a lot of new funds in order so that for example, one of Rob's departments over in food service or something, that they would be able to see those funds that they collect and be able to then budget to those. And so we're working as quickly as we can in order to get those funds created so that we can start putting money into that. The new money, the state appropriated money, we've got that out. A lot of what we're having difficulty with and where these new funds are sitting are in the revenue accounts and the rollover funds. And that's what we're working very quickly to do. I think many of you know that we are very short-staffed in the controller's office right now. We've had a number of people who have left the controller's office, and in fact, Megan, our controller, is also leaving the controller's office, and so we're scrambling as quickly as we can and recruiting help among other financial areas to assist with that project. We had a great meeting the other day with IT and the budget office and the controller's office, And then we had a faculty member who deals with a lot of the revenue accounts, Dr. Michael Huff, come over, and we talked about what is it that you need? How do we make sure that Dr. Huff, you're getting what you need in order to be able to see those funds and be able to get the information that you want. And we were able to take a lot of that and then be acting on that. So we've got a skeleton crew that's working as fast as they can on that. I think you're going to start to see that information trickle in as we create those accounts or create those funds. We're not holding off until all of those are created before we go forward and populate all of that. So we're going to be doing that as fast as we can. We'll be in communication with you on that. And I think that everybody should have seen the email that came out from Sherry yesterday regarding budget questions. And I encourage you to also meet with her so that we can understand how best to serve you and how to make sure that you get the information that you need. So again, President, we're working on that, and I don't have a definite time frame on that because it's just as we create those funds and populate those that we'll be getting those out. But it is a priority for us.
So there are a couple of questions in the chat box here, and this has to do with COVID reimbursements. And this particular colleague was saying, when might items that were submitted for COVID reimbursement, is that still coming? It's just been a long time. Just wanting to know when they might hear about that. So can you shed some light on without knowing all the detail?
Yeah, most of those we had imagined that most everybody has been contacted. We've tried to contact everybody who submitted COVID requests. So for that individual who says, I haven't heard anything and we haven't been reimbursed, please reach out to me. We'll track that one down on the request. There were some that have been denied. There are still some pretty tight guidelines on what can be approved for COVID and what cannot. But we do have that reserve. And so if there are expenses that we need to cover, please reach out to me and let me know. We'll track that down and figure out, was it denied? Was the notification, was there a break in that communication? But we'll communicate with you. So please reach out to me and we'll track that one down.
Another colleague asked that would it be possible to get more regular updates about issues with the chart of accounts?
Yes, absolutely. We can commit to that. I think that's part of what Sherry's email is about. Let's talk about your budget questions. And then as we work on building back up the controller's office staff, I think that is a priority. And so we'll be communicating out what you should see, kind of detailed steps of when you should start to see things. We'll communicate with the departments as those funds are created and populated, and then we'll work with them to make sure they understand how that chart works.
Thank you. Another question kind of back on enrollment for Terry. One of the questions here is that why did we contract with RNL for an enrollment plan when the college spent over a year writing a strategic enrollment plan a while ago? I think that's a good question.
Yeah, that's an excellent question. So if I can explain it correctly, strategic enrollment planning is different than strategic enrollment management. Strategic enrollment planning is something that is at the 30,000 foot level. This is looking at things like the different types of programs that we're offering. It looks at retention services. It's going to look at financial aid, scholarships, different things like that. And the goal with a strategic enrollment plan is to find ways that are going to help the institution be financially viable and robust, rather than just the idea of bringing in more students. Strategic enrollment management is the day-to-day execution of those strategic plans, such as, if one of the things, the strategies is to increase scholarships, then what the strategic enrollment management plan is like okay, now that we have the scholarships, how are we dispersing them to the best of our abilities? So they are different, but they work hand in hand. So hopefully that answered the question.
Good, and if there are other questions about that, continue to engage us. Another question regarding reimbursements for COVID was that there were quite a few departments that weren't reimbursed because of an admin decision to not reimburse that department because the department didn't seem to be harmed by the expenses that they had incurred from COVID. Anyway, how you might respond to that, Carson?
Yeah, so President, there were departments that requested when we first started. We asked for any and all reimbursement requests that got to be sent in, and there were some that were not able to tie to COVID. As I mentioned before, the 3 different rounds and the criteria for what could be reimbursed and things changed each round. And so there was some strict criteria at the beginning of what could be reimbursed. And so if there was not that direct tie, we couldn't claim that there was that direct impact from COVID. And so we were not able to reimburse some of those funds. So again, if you've got questions about those COVID reimbursements, please reach out and we'll track those down and we'll help explain that. President, I just wanted to also kind of touch back on the chart of accounts item. We are, and I mentioned that we're working with the skeleton crew now with the changes that have been happening. We are working on filling those positions, and many of you I think have seen the position posting that is out for the controller's office. And so we're looking at a structure, restructuring that office a little bit. There's a little bit more responsibility in bringing both the budget office and the controller's office and procurement all together and making that a little more collaboration. So just wanted to touch on that one as well.
Good, thank you. Yeah, that's terrific. Listen, another a development has to do with scheduling and conferencing services. This is a solution that I guess has been a long time in the works. And maybe Rob, you want to talk a little bit about the scheduling and conference planning moving forward?
Sure. We've had some changes in what we'll be doing with Snow Fun and the summer activities, and so we've had an opening or some hours. So we decided, or been working to put together a scheduling and conferences office, and so we've now got a centralized scheduling system where everything on campus can be scheduled through one person. We think this is going to bring a lot of efficiencies to our campus, both on our on-campus folks and our off-campus people. So everything will be moving toward this centralized scheduling. We're starting with just the noise building, the GSC, and the library right now, but the other buildings will be put in the system over the next month or so. So hopefully maybe by the end of January, we can have the entire campus on a centralized scheduling place where we're using a software called Midas, which has been used at the Richfield campus for many years, and they've been very happy with it. And we've been testing this and working with it for the last month or so, and it's working very well with the buildings we're using. So basically, you'll go online or make a phone call and schedule your room. They will get back to you to make sure it's available, and then there will be a person that will host each of those events. So when somebody shows up on campus, there will be someone assigned to meet them and make sure they have everything they need and take care of their needs. So we think it'll be a lot more friendly to our consumers and also to our staff as well. All of the classrooms will still be scheduled internally, and so it won't affect the classrooms, but mostly the other spaces that are used by both the campus and the community. We're going to be sending out an email just to save a little time. We'll send out an email after this meeting, which will explain all of the details, how you'll do it, the email, the phone numbers. And then if you have questions, you can contact myself or Marcy Larson has done a great job in putting this together and corralling everybody and smoothing over all of the things that needed to be smoothed over to make it work. And so we're excited, though, to see what's going to happen as we start this centralized scheduling system.
Rob, there was a follow-up question on, will this include the AC, practice lawns, the outdoor spaces, that sort of thing?
Yes, so as we get going, it will include both the BAC, the HAC, the Eccles Center, the entire campus, including the fields north of campus or on the north part of town. We hope to have everything going through this one place. Certain rooms, like example, the racquetball courts, they'll still be scheduled over through that office. We're not going to get to that minute of a thing. And there's certain rooms that probably won't be scheduled through this, but there won't be very many. Most everything, the blue gym, the main gym, the classrooms, and the other offices and the things that were used in the AC will also be part of that. So it's pretty much campus wide.
Great. Thanks for that work. I think this will make a big difference, especially as the public and external entities will have a better sense of service here for both our internal community and our external audiences. I'd like to maybe just turn a moment over to Provost Jenkins to kind of give us an update on happenings relative to academic affairs. Welcome, Provost Jenkins.
Thanks so much. I think I'm going to start out by talking about student activities. I don't know if any of you have been on campus during a student activity event, either during the day or in the evening, but if you have, you will have noticed that those have seen record attendance this semester. And so we doubled up on those. We offered more activities than we really normally can afford to offer because the students were so interested in having opportunities to get together and they came out in large numbers. I know I went to one event, was on the football field one evening, and there were over 900 kids there to do Western swing. They were just so eager for the events this semester. So shout out to Michelle and Zeb and the student body officers and the ambassadors and all of those who worked tirelessly this semester to provide engagement opportunities for our students outside of the classroom. Another thing that's been going on that's had real strong support from students is the Belonging campaign. Students are really trying hard to support each other and to find ways to help students feel like they belong, which I've been very heartened by students' acceptance and actually sort of initiation of what's happening with this campaign. In terms of classes, the finish line is in sight and it's so exciting. I want to remind people that at the Welcome Back Assembly for faculty, we talked about some of the unique challenges that we thought we might face this semester, and it turns out that we were right. We did face a lot of new challenges, and as a result, faculty and staff have made adaptations. They've changed the way that they communicated with students. Some of them have even had to change the way that they teach. And really, for me, this is a testament to the skill and attitude of our faculty and staff, and more importantly, their commitment to student success. So I just really wanted to shout out to the whole campus for helping us with another difficult semester. And I think I'll just end by saying, I think we're all, including students, faculty, and staff, we're all a little bit exhausted after this long semester. And I've been, as always, reading up on self-care, and I want to encourage everybody to find opportunity over this break to take care of yourself. It represents just a small moment to recharge, and I just want to encourage everyone to take advantage of that. I scheduled it in my schedule, so I'm going to work on that myself.
Yeah, I have a feeling that a lot of us at Snow College have a hard time making our mental health and well-being a priority, and we really want you to make that a priority over this break. And as such, we are closing campus down from Christmas to New Year. We really encourage you to really take that time off, engage with your family, get rest, take care of yourself. Let's move to Vice President McKiff in our Richfield campus, and tell us a little bit what's going on in the tech ed space.
Thanks, President. It's great to be with everybody today. Terry mentioned the Learn and Work program that we launched last year, which had a lot more online programs, and this year we have more face-to-face programs, but we're only halfway through. So I guess I'm asking you to help us spread the word about the next semester's offerings of Learn and Work. So that's snow.edu/learn and work. All kinds of programs that include a few online as well as some face-to-face courses, and some of our most popular and in-demand tech programs in industrial mechanics and composites, completely free, starting again this coming semester. So exciting news there. Also just want to echo what Melanie said, appreciating everybody who's worked really hard. On the technical side, we're going through state alignment meetings, so faculty are being asked to do even more that way and try to align curriculum, and it's a pretty heavy lift, and I really appreciate everybody just having a can-do attitude and also representing us so well at a state level. Industry relationships, we have a couple of exciting grants going right now, and Senator Owens talked about one that's happening under the leadership of Ira and Kenley and all of our ag faculty, Jay, Kendra, and Matt. It's an exciting time for that. And then we just got a $460,000 grant to start offering a really cool partnership in Fillmore with a company with our industrial mechanics program. So the goal is to continue reaching out to our rural communities and filling that pipeline for industry, and also allowing our kids to stay here and make a good living. And we have a real responsibility for rural, especially in this part of the state. So I'm just excited to be part of it, and also appreciate President's leadership and the support of everyone on cabinet.
Thank you so much, Stacy. We really think this is an exciting part of our mission, and it's certainly that's being really well received by our communities and by our superintendents. So this is going to be a terrific initiative. I'm just making sure that we don't have any outstanding questions here. We're kind of past our time. I do want to also mention some good news. A family that wants to remain anonymous has just given us a very large gift, very specific though around international education. And so you'll hear more about that. And there's two dimensions that these resources will go to over the next 3 years. One is enhancing international education on campus, curriculum, study abroads, scholar exchanges. But the other main thrust of this will be around international student enrollment. And our international office, our Center for Global Engagement, is so good, but they've also been really kind of taxed, and these resources will help sort of reinforce support there. But we'll be looking at a much more sort of aggressive international dimension. We're also exploring, because we do have some housing challenges. We have 98% housing that's full here on our campus, and of course, almost virtually no housing down in Richfield. We're looking at some homestay arrangements that families will be paid per month, by the international students and their families to be able to stay in your home. So more information, those that are be interested in participating, we'll get that information out to you. But we really want to thank the family that has given us a very generous donation to kickstart this very exciting program over the next 3 years. Remember that the holiday gift vouchers, they can be picked up in the Noise or Sorensen building in Richfield, Noise building here in Ephraim, anytime before the break. And Marcy, I'm guessing that's in the president's office. I've met a few colleagues that come on up here. It's a voucher in which you can use in the campus bookstore, and is just a small token of our appreciation for you. Let me just go around and see if there's anything else from the cabinet before we wind this down. So Marcy, have we missed anything from your perspective?
I think we're okay. Did we address the questions here of if we're completely closed December 27th? I think we just need to clarify the plan for campus December 27th through 29th.
Right, so we are closed from December 27th to 29th, but on a skeletal basis we'll be open? No. All right, hold on. What? So
Melanie.
Melanie, do you want to talk about?
I'll take it.
We are going to have some coverage.
So we're leaving that. We tried to come up with a plan that would allow the most flexibility for individuals across campus. And we're not closing the doors, but we're also not mandating that your office be open if you're not if you don't need to be here at a specific time. So if you would like to take it off, you're welcome to take it off. If you would like to work, we want you to find other ways to take care of yourself over the holidays. So it's up to you.
And then the question about hourly people.
They also can work. They can work if they want to. They won't be paid for not working.
Right. Okay. And that'll be worked out individually with their department and their supervisor in terms of how that can be handled fairly. Okay. So I'm just I'm asking the person who is anonymous, was that what was just said seems to conflict with the email that came out. Is that clarified, or just maybe indicate whether we need to press on that issue a little bit more from your perspective? So while you're maybe responding to that, Carson, anything else?
No, just thanks for everything that is being done. I think as we've seen with the storm and the weather turning colder and the snow falling, I'd just like to give a shout out to the facilities crew for all that they do in keeping our campus safe and taking care of the snow removal, and they do a great job. So
Here, absolutely, that is terrific. I also want to thank our Academic Affairs Division staff for submitting the Aspen application, and Becky Hermanson, our OIE group, Provost Jenkins, Stacy McKiff, those that have contributed to the narrative but this is a significant thing. As you may know, you've heard us talk about the Aspen Institute. That really is the gold standard for community college work. They have a particular interest in student success and student retention, and we've been identified as the one of the top 150 community colleges in the country, which allows us then to apply for a $1 million grant through a fairly lengthy 30+ page application, and we just got that in, and I want to thank all those who really pushed hard to make that deadline. So Melanie, do you want to talk a little bit about we should hear when we should hear the result back? We're up against always some really stiff competition. This is our first application, as I understand it, for a while. So we're hoping for the best, but this is something we want to do yearly until we can get that recognition.
I don't think I want to hear you say we want to do this yearly when we just barely finished it up, because it turns out it was
too soon.
It's too soon. It's too soon.
Plus, you can only apply for it every other year, right? I think that's
right. We at least get a year off. It's a big deal. It was quite extensive. It's data dependent, so we relied a ton on Becky Hermanson to get us some data. And we've had some conversations since about how we can better situate ourselves so that we're more prepared to actually write next time and have even better data and more significant data to include. So I think it's a great way for us to sort of calibrate where we are, decide on some improvements that we need to make in terms of student success, and then get to work making those so that we can demonstrate it on the next application. So
Anyway, terrific work on that. Thank you, Becky and the OIE group, Micah, Paul, everybody that went in on this. So thanks very much. I also want to have maybe Rob, our athletic director, talk to us a little bit about athletics, which had so far a terrific year. You want to sort of update us on where football and soccer and volleyball ended up this fall, and then we've got some really talented basketball teams.
So our volleyball team followed up the second place finish last year with a 7th place finish in the national tournament this year. So they've gone back to the national tournament 3 years in a row, which is unprecedented. So they've had a great run. We got a new coach. He's doing a great job. Our soccer team, again, was very successful and won the conference, and so hosted the regional tournament. And then they got an at-large bid to the national tournament. Our women went back, and for the 2nd year in a row, went back to the national tournament and represented us really well. They lost a chance to move on with penalty kicks, so it was quite a stressful final way to end their season. But they had a great year, and a lot of them are moving on as well. Our football team had a very successful year as well. They ended up 4th, ranked 4th in the country, had a playoff game, went to Iowa Western and lost by 1 point. So their season ended. But yesterday was National Signing Day. And if you're on ESPN or CBS or Twitter or anything else, you would have noticed that we had several of our players sign at major universities. Probably the neatest one is Keontae Scott. He signed at the University of Auburn. And for those who know football, Auburn is football. So he's looking to go. They're expecting him to make an immediate impact, but he's one of our, that's one of the biggest signees we probably had for a long time here at Snow College. So we had other guys go to Hawaii, Kansas, Oklahoma State, Utah State, Boise State. So a lot of our players are moving on to really good programs and will represent us well. And as well as 10 or 15 soccer players have signed at 4-year schools, and several of our volleyball players have signed at 4-year schools. So when we talk about transferring, our kids are transferring to great places and having looking for great careers, which hopefully ends up becoming great alumni and giving back to the university or to the college. Our men's basketball team is ranked 15th in the country and doing well. They'll be playing number 1 ranked Salt Lake Community College on Saturday afternoon. Not to make any problems, but they do have 2 of their starters are out with COVID. That Snow College has 2 of their starters out. So it'll be an interesting game. And our women's team is doing well with Coach Zhu, a new coach, and they're about 500 and doing well as well. So it's been a great year so far. Looking forward to spring sports as well. But appreciate the support of so many people that come and watch and support the students and take care of them as well and help in the classroom.
I just was so tickled with our student athletes. Some of these, like on the soccer team, both men and women are going to places like San Diego State, University of Montana, UNLV, University of Colorado, Missouri State, Weber State. In volleyball, we've got students that are heading to San Jose State, Weber, SUU, Dixie. Just a terrific transition for these student athletes to go on and continue to compete. All right, let's see. Terry, any final thoughts on your end? No, we're good. Stacy, any final thoughts? Thanks for hosting, by the way, the holiday socials down at Richfield yesterday. Thanks for all those who made it. And thanks for all those who came to the Ephraim holiday social. We don't do enough of these. I love these where we get a chance to just talk and maybe decompress just a little bit. But if there's no other sort of issues to be raised by the cabinet, I want to just express my appreciation for working here. This is just an incredible place to work. It's a work of the heart, and some great things are happening. I can't wait for the future. We'll see how the legislative session plays out, but I'm excited. I've never had more enthusiasm about the legislature and the legislative support. As I've talked to a variety of legislative leaders, they're conscious, aware of Snow College's situation, and really want to help us. So we're really looking forward to some good things this next legislative session. The fact that there's a 3.5% compensation increase this next year as a start is really a terrific sort of boost in the arm. But thank you for all that you do, and we'll have another we'll have another town hall like this at the beginning of the semester, probably in mid to late January, and by then we'll probably have a little more line of sight when it comes to the legislative situation. But I want to express my appreciation for our cabinet. I got to tell the campus that they work hard. They are great advocates for you. They're passionate about you and represent you really well. So hang in there. We're almost there. Merry Christmas, happy holidays to you all, and really remember to take care of yourself and your family. All right, all the best. Thank you.